This lesson covers applying PowerShell desired state configuration to a host. In the previous lesson, we went through the authoring phase of actually defining a script that essentially just takes a source folder and ensures its content is in a target folder, and then created the MOF file, which is the management object format file, which is a standard. And that's the authoring phase complete. That would then be copied to the target server as part of the staging, where if I'm using the pull model on the target, that MOF file and the modules would be copied to the pull server, and then that would be pulled down by that target server periodically. I can also do this manually. So I already run this to create the MOF file. I'm going to move back up a folder. The next thing I can actually do is just run that configuration. So I can see I have my MOF file, which was running that script I created. And then I'm going to tell desired state configuration to actually use it and apply it to this system. So I'm using the verbose switch and also wait to let it complete. I can see here that it has run and it's now been applied to my system. If I do a get DSC configuration, it shows me what is being applied, and I can see here it's checked what was in that source folder, and it should make sure the files are in the test path. In my test environment, I only have a single file in this folder, and the target now has that file. If I was to delete that file, within 30 minutes, that file would reappear when it refreshes and reapplies that configuration. I can force it to occur by rerunning the configuration right now. Now if I check again, the file has now appeared. It already saw there was drift, and it has fixed that drift because that's the configuration I've told it to perform. I don't wish to constantly run this start DSC configuration. So what is available locally on the box is this local configuration store and the local configuration manager. The local configuration manager controls how often it checks, if I'm using the pull model, how often I check the server and which server to use, and then what is my behavior to actually fix any deviations I may find. I can test my current configuration. So this is testing all the desired state configurations that have been applied to my box and say, is this still valid? So I have a result of true. If I was now to go and delete this file and run that test again, it should now tell me false. It runs a quick check, says the target does not match the source, so I'm no longer compliant. Now to control the local configuration manager, I have another configuration called demo config. Again, I specify the host names it applies to, and this time it's for my local configuration manager. There are a number of different options I can configure. And again, there's a great blog post that if you just search for understanding meta configuration, desired state configuration, you will find this post. And this walks through all the different switches that may be possible. The interesting ones here is configuration mode. So this is actually telling that local configuration manager what it should do. So my options are apply only. This means it effectively will apply this configuration once, but it will never check it, and it will not fix any drift. So this would be if I wanted to initially set up a server looking a certain way, but then I don't care if the configuration drifts. The other option is apply and monitor. So this applies the configuration, monitors, it will report if drift is there in the logs, but won't fix it. The final option is apply and autocorrect. This is where the configuration is applied, monitored, and if drift occurs, it will automatically fix it. In my environment, that is what I've got it configured to do. Apply and autocorrect. The next is how often should it actually check for drift and perform whatever the configuration mode action is, i.e. perform my correction. I have this set to 30. Now another interesting switch, if I was using the pull mode, I am pulling my configuration down from a pull server, is how often I refresh that configuration. So 15 minutes is normal, and how often I apply it must be a multiple of this refresh frequency. For example, if I'm refreshing from the server every 15 minutes, then I could apply it every 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 45. I wouldn't want it to be less because there really wouldn't be much benefit to that. So this says every 30 minutes it should apply and check for any drift. It will only reapply settings that have drifted. It does not reapply the entire configuration. So to use this, once again, I have to compile this. I'm then actually telling it to run this demo config function out to a certain folder. Once again, it creates me a MOF file. And then I tell the local configuration manager to use this configuration. And I can check that configuration with that PowerShell. So you can see it's now applying and auto-correcting. It's going to check and resolve every 30 minutes. And if it was in pull mode, which this is not, it would check that pull server every 15 minutes, but it's not actually valid because I'm using push mode. And that's all you have to do. This is now automatically every 30 minutes going to check and reapply that configuration. There is an event log. So if I navigate in my event viewer to Applications and Services Logs, Microsoft Windows, Desired State Configuration Operational, and I refresh this, I will see logs when it's performing the check and when it was run successfully. And typically I would see that under normal circumstances about every 30 minutes because that is the interval I have defined. So I can always go and check the state of my desired state configuration using the event viewer.